Well, only 11 days until the snap election in Canada because of the collapse of the Trudeau government. Mark Carney sitting pretty right now, it appears, if you believe these polls. The highly subsidized EV plants all across Canada. You know, this was like the Liberals' wet dream up there in Canada, like build all these EV plants, highly subsidized by the federal government of Canada. And then when the cold winter hits, all these batteries don't work and all your fleet of trucks don't work. And now there's thousands of layoffs happening at these EV plants across Canada. The polls are skewed right now. If you look at the polling in Canada, a lot of older Canadians are heavily sort of weighted in these polls. Do you guys believe polls anymore anyway? But Canada, man, they're on the, I think this is the most important election in modern Canada's history. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but let's ask David KRAYDEN. Out of Ottawa, Canada today, he writes on his great Substack. He writes at the Post Millennial, and of course, he hosts the show KRAYDEN'S Right, and he's always very prolific on X with his live streams as well. David, am I wrong to say I think this is the most important in my lifetime, maybe the most important election in modern Canada's history?
I would have to concur, Clayton. This is the most consequential election probably in both of our lifetimes. And I think it's Canada's last chance to escape the grip of globalism. And if Mark Carney is given a 4-year mandate as an elected prime minister, not just an appointed one, which he is at the moment, I believe Canada will be into a catastrophic time of economic crisis, foreign policy crisis, and perhaps the collapse of Canada itself. That's my tea leaf reading of this election. It is very consequential indeed. And as you say, we have just 11 days until Monday, April 28th. I do believe the polling is skewed. You mentioned that. And I think it has been heavily weighted to the 60 and older crowd, which, unlike the past, it used to be very strong supporters of the Conservative Party. They have now switched their allegiance largely to the Liberals because they have swallowed this nonsense that the mainstream media and the Liberal Party have been trumpeting, namely that if Pierre Poilievre becomes prime minister, he is going to cancel old age pensions and do all kinds of horrible things to seniors. And this, of course, is because he's Canada's Donald Trump, but he's not. And Donald Trump isn't doing anything of that sort of nature in the U.S. So it's farcical. But I do believe if the reality of the poll right now is analyzed, I think Poilievre is marginally ahead of the Liberals if the polling is 100% accurate. And I'm predicting he's going to win a slim majority government. Nothing like he was prepared to win in January before the departure or the imminent departure of Justin Trudeau. He was slated to get the largest majority in Canadian history. That's no longer possible, but I do think a slim majority is, simply because the longer we see Mark Carney, the more we see of Mark Carney, the more we learn about how deep in the pocket he is to China and the globalists, about his incredible hypocrisy, about his tax evasion. It's just looking sicker and sicker every day for Mark Carney. And I do think there's an upsurge for the Conservatives simply because that's the only real options Canadians have to stop the Liberals right now. Yes, the People's Party of Canada is probably, for many small C Conservatives, a better option. However, they're polling at 2%, and they have no way they're going to win that election. They're not a viable force right now to stop Mark Carney. I have friends running for the People's Party of Canada, including my good friend Lisa Robinson in Pickering. And I have a friend in Alberta who's running. But I'm not telling anyone how to vote, but I am saying priority one is to stop Mark Carney. He's a danger to Canada. He's toxic to this country. He will destroy what's left of Canada after a decade, almost a decade, of Justin Trudeau. And that's what I'm telling people in my writing and my broadcast right now, because yes, this is a serious consequential election.
we always hear this too, in the United States, where you're like, well, look at Ross Perot. Like everyone should, rally around this third party, this candidate, this independent who's not really tied to the major parties, and let's rally around. And he was on his way to maybe winning until had some family issues and whatever. But Pierre Poilievre doesn't. I don't know how much better he is. I mean, and that's what you guys are. That's what you guys are stuck with, right? I mean, Maxime Bernier on Tucker's show this week, saying, basically that Pierre Poilievre is a fraud. And I think, still pushing for massive amounts of immigration into Canada. I have friends in Canada who are so, and I'll say this, they're so disgusted by the amounts of immigration into Canada. And they tell me all the time, they don't even recognize their country anymore. It's totally different. And this has happened under the Liberal Party. And now Pierre Poilievre is sort of, going to continue a lot of this immigration. So I get it's like the lesser of two evils, picking Pierre Poilievre right now. Is that what people are stuck with in Canada? I mean, I guess they could vote for Maxime Bernier, but then you got 2% of the vote right now in the national vote. So if I hate that term that you're like, then you're throwing away your vote. Right? If you vote for Maxime Bernier, then are you throwing away your vote? Is that how Canadians are seeing it right now? It's really sad. I hate that.
Oh, that's obviously how the Conservatives are selling this. That don't split the right-wing vote, although how right-wing is the Conservative Party of Canada. If Pierre Poilievre only delivers on his pledge, which he has continued to make throughout this election campaign, to privatize, to defund the CBC, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, I would even be satisfied with that, because this has been a goal, an objective, a wish, a dream for Conservatives in this country for decades, to stop spending the $1.4 billion. And of course, Mark Carney wants to institutionalize that funding so it's not even debated anymore. It's going to be automatic. But if Poilievre comes through on that promise to defund the CBC, it will mean so much to conservative small c and large c in this country who have fought for this, including myself. I wrote a paper on this about 15 years ago, the reasons to privatize the CBC. I have been fighting for this for a long time. I'd like to see this happen. Another reason I think Poilievre is not Mark Carney, and he's not Justin Trudeau. He's proposing a 30% middle-class tax cut. Mark Carney is proposing a 1% tax cut. Poilievre has a reasonable response to the affordable housing crisis in this country, which is to stop the regulations and the taxes that are driving homes and apartments, for that matter, beyond the range of everybody, especially younger Canadians who can never even dream about owning a home. And I think if Poilievre delivers that much, it will make a profound difference between what we are headed for, potentially, under another Mark Carney administration, this time elected with a 4-year mandate. It's a frightening concept. And as much as I have tried to push Pierre Poilievre farther to the right on some issues, I think his weakest link is immigration, and the other one is Ukraine, continuing the supporting this stupid war in Ukraine. However, I'm not going to get everything I want from Poilievre, but it's a heck of a lot better than the other option, which right now is Mark Carney. And it's going to be a fierce last week of election campaigning. There's an English language debate tonight, which I'll be covering. That's going to be crucial. He destroyed Carney last night in the French language debate. He'll do even more so tonight, I believe, in the English language debate. One thing Pierre Poilievre does very well is debating. He's honed his debating skills for over 2 decades now in the House of Commons and during question period. He's good. Mark Carney is a lousy public speaker. He's a terrible debater. And I think tonight could be the beginning of the end for the Liberal Party's hopes of winning this next election. And this could be the end of Mark Carney's hopes.
I hope you're right. A lot of different takes in this in the chat room. Just Alameda Sweet and Spicy says, Pierre Poilievre is the best Canada ever had for quite some time. Very bad take, Redacted. I I'm slamming him on immigration. I'm slamming him on his position on Ukraine, but Mark Carney is terrible for Canada. So I'd much rather have him. Who else? Let me see what else. Let's see. Catherine says, I would love Maxime Bernier to be the prime minister, but will plug my nose and I'll vote for Polyev. Then Nikki says, Pierre is the clear winner. Piss off, David Crayden. Nikki says. So, man, I
just endorsed Pierre Polyev to win this election. Why am I what is she upset about?
I don't know.
I mean, unless you get on your knees to these political leaders, some people are never happy. But I mean, of course he has his faults. Of course he has his problems. But I think this is a crucial question of Canada staying together, and the only political party that can do that right now, and the only political leader that can do that is the Conservative Party under Pierre Poilievre. And so if people are hearing me say don't vote for Poilievre, I mean, even though in Canada we don't vote for the leader of the party unless you happen to be in his constituency, but don't support your local Conservative candidate, I'm not saying that. I'm saying this is a huge crisis Canada faces, and we need to keep Mark Carney out of office. We need to ensure that Canada is not going deeper into the glove of the globalists, because that's precisely where Mark Carney will take us. Yeah.
Shez says Pierre Poilievre doesn't have ties to the WEF. So there you go. I mean, this is going to be amazing. I will be watching it very, very closely. And we'll follow David. If you're in Canada, follow David on X. He does a great job breaking all this all down. And we will stay focused. I'm not, and Nerd 101 says Redacted is struggling to stay on track at the moment. No, we're not. I'm just reading the chat room right now, and I love seeing all the different Canadian takes right now. So love it. I love it. I want to see it. I want to see the back and forth here. Like, where do people, not one person is supporting Carney in our chat room, I'll tell you that much, but there is some debate between, Pierre Poilievre right now and Maxime Bernier. So we'll be watching tonight. It'll be great to see this English language debate. David Crayden, up there in Ottawa, in the throes of a crazy election. Great to see you, David. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Clayton.